Good evening and welcome to episode 14. We're at Jim Bobcasts. I'm Jim.
And I'm Bob.
How are you, Lord Bob?
I'm really good, actually, mate. Not too bad at all. Can't grumble about the situation. What about your good self?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm sat here on my apartment balcony listening to the crickets chirp away, looking at Dubai. It's really beautiful, actually. You can see the marina from here. It's sort of lit up like a Christmas tree.
How lovely for you.
I'm really well, thanks, mate. Kids are ambling through homeschooling, and I've got a lot of work on, which has been good for me because it's been, an indifferent week on the Arsenal front. A result that was a little bit, and a really good result just last night. And then the whole Ozil situation, which we're going to spend some good time on the scene. It's just been very sad. You know how I feel about Mesut Ozil. I've waited until the pod actually to properly comment on it, not comment on it on Twitter. And I've kind of stayed off Twitter a little bit. I just haven't really wanted to listen or read other people's opinions before I can kind of get my own words out.
Yeah, I think that's not a bad idea. So, to the football, Last Thursday, we played Thursday and Monday, which I found quite interesting, not having a game over the weekend. Obviously, the Crystal Palace game last Thursday, well, that was the proverbial bore draw. Such a drab, dull event. I think I joked with you, Sam, we've got to talk about this, and there was nothing to talk about. What a bad game.
Yeah, it highlighted a few things. How much we miss Kieran Tierney now. He is now made himself the most important asset in that starting 11, I think. And I think actually you see that drastically by what he adds to the team in the Newcastle game and what you didn't have in the Palace game. And also, sneakily, that when the chips are down, people are far too harsh on Leno, and not enough people actually pour praise on him when he goes through really, really purple patches. And this is not his first or second or third occasion where he's having a really, really, really good run of form. Yeah,
I think, Leno's been, obviously under a lot of pressure since we sold Martinez before the start of the season. But what Leno's done since he's really cemented himself as number one. And he's only really had a season or so of being cemented as number one, because obviously he started off with Czech at the club, etc., etc. So he's really there now. He's found his feet. I think he's playing brilliantly for us. Also almost showing some signs of leadership qualities there as well. Kieran Tierney was horrifically missed against Crystal Palace. You would never think that a left-back would be so fundamental to your attacking options as what Kieran Tierney was and is, as the case is. So that was worrying. I was also very worried to see him out then and needing an MRI scan because you think of the worst. Obviously, Klanasic has just gone back to Schalke. And then you're thinking, Christ, because Maitland-Niles, I felt he had a really poor game.
Yeah, he didn't have a very good game. And he also showed, albeit we've got a fat squad, we are short in some positions, and you've got a naturally right-footed player playing at left back. And whilst I understand the inverted winger is the fashionable thing to do in 2020 football, it's not the fashionable way to be a fullback, because you want to hold the byline and you also want your strong foot when obviously you're defending goal side. So it just looked a bit unnatural, didn't it? I think he's got away with it in previous times where he's played in a wing-back position because it's
a different role altogether. It's a different role.
Yeah, but when it's an out-and-out four and you're playing fullback, it didn't pour a load of light on what we actually think Maitland-Niles of a player. We both think quite highly of him as a player.
Yeah,
and he had a great game. He had a great game at right back a couple of weeks back. So,
he did. It was a bit. But talking of right back, I thought Bellerin had a shocker.
He did. Yeah, which was out of character because he's played well in a few games leading up to that game.
He was getting involved. He was getting in the way. So many times he got in the way of a ball, or he drifted inside where he didn't need to be. I just thought he was running around a bit headless chickeny looking for the ball. If I could liken it to anything, I liken it to how Willian plays for us. Always running towards the ball, not trying to develop space and run with the space or hold a position. After all, he's a defender. Holding position and playing in your role is as important as anything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought, I'll probably tip our little bit and have a little chat about him when we talk about Newcastle. Well, I thought Xhaka was good in the middle of the park. He made some mistakes, but he was very good to clean up after himself. And he did that sort of in a defensively minded role really well against Palace. I thought he did brilliantly.
Yeah, Xhaka has been in good form since his red card incident, and he carried that into the Newcastle game. I thought he had an exceptional game against Newcastle as well. He just looks to be in, a more kind of professional mindset. He just looks like his awareness is sharper, his movement looks sharper. Positionally, he's never been the fastest player, but so he has to gain speed by being positionally a lot more astute. And his distribution is a lot more clinical. He's now passing the ball with fizz and in variable directions. He's happy to take long distance passes on, and if they don't come off, he doesn't get his head down. I think he's had a really, really good run of games now, probably nearly 6 games, I think, where he's really held his own. He's held 7 out of 10 plus performances in all games. I thought David Luiz was solid again. I thought he had a good game. And I was very glad to see Rob Holding sign a new contract. Actually, I think he's deserved it and he's earned it. And he has been good now for a while as well. And when we come on to the Newcastle game, I thought especially he had a very good game against Newcastle last night as well.
I agree with you there. Yeah, and again, moving forward, there wasn't... Obviously, Saka found it hard. He was, moved to left-back halfway through the game as well.
Yeah.
Instantly, when he did go to left back, we looked a lot better down the left. So, that really does show it that if Saka's going to be our substitute left back, we are in a bit of trouble there.
Bob, there was some good news to come out of that Palace game. The good news was that Thomas Partey returned and played 20-odd minutes. And he replaced a player who I've criticised to you quite a lot now, Dani Ceballos. I do not know what kind of footballer Dani Ceballos is. I cannot describe him as a footballer. I'm finding it more and more difficult as well to put my finger on it about what he specifically adds to the side. I'm of the opinion now that we've had Ceballos for the best part of 80 games, and I think he's probably run his course with Arsenal now. I think Arsenal need to think about moving on from him. And I'm trying not to cross over, but because we've played 2 games in 3 days, and obviously subbing Ceballos after 70 minutes in the Palace game, and then Partey's played 110 minutes from that point onwards, it is gulfs of areas apart about how much more someone can add to a game than the other person.
I didn't think Ceballos played atrociously against Palace. Potentially one of his better games for a while. So that's fine, right? So let me just call you out on that then. So what did he do particularly then that you want to see in your game on a weekly basis? Because I don't see chance creation. I don't see goals. All right, Arsenal are having a bit of a good run at the moment where they're keeping clean sheets. That's fine, but that's not. You can't particularly put that down to Ceballos because El Neni and Partey have now featured in teams where they've kept clean sheets. So that's not particularly down to one midfielder. I felt that in the Palace game he moved quite nicely with the ball on occasions. But don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he had a good game and he's a good player and I want to see him play week after week. But in some of his previous games, I think that he was probably slightly better against Palace than he had been. Just what I thought I saw, And
I feel like you set a low bar now for what a midfielder should do for Arsenal football.
No, I basically have compared it to his previous games and said, he was better than those. Much the same like we had done with the boy Anani. We castigated him halfway earlier in the season. He's came in and had some good games. And we've praised him for those good games. I think Ceballos is well short of the mark for where we wanted to be. And crossing over again, last night's game showed that in full, ultra high definition, 4K and all the beats.
But my issue is whether they're technically gifted enough or have the aptitude to play at the level that we set as a benchmark for Arsenal Football Club is fine. But I know what kind of footballer Granit Xhaka is by watching him. He is a deep-lying, ball-playing midfielder who looks to move the ball variably in multiple directions, unlock attacks from deep, and also try and break up play with a bit of hustle and bustle. El Neni is a complete Jack Russell, just covers every blade of the grass, defensively does his job and always looks for the most technically astute player on the pitch who is of close proximity to him as possible. Willock is a player who likes to try and go beyond the 9, but he's cutting his teeth. Smith Rowe is a creative midfielder who likes to operate in small pockets in the final third and create opportunities. What the fuck is Danny Ceballos? I can't tell you what he tries to do. I can't. And Thomas Partey is all the things that I mentioned with Xhaka. It's just a lot better than Xhaka, with the utmost respect to Granit Xhaka. And anyone who watched the game against United and then watched the game again last night, you do just see Partey is proper classy. Do you know what I mean? He is vintage silk. Do you know what I mean? He's like a fucking Rolls Royce. I'll tell you what,
that game against Palace was an absolute drab fest. So let's move on to Newcastle, a game with much more promise. Obviously, they've come on a really poor run of form,
But just finishing off Palace, Bob, it was very important to say, look, Leno was man of the match in that game. He earned Arsenal a point instead of sacrificing 3 in that game. And he's been good for a while. And it's just important that people actually give him the praise he deserves for that. And also, Aubameyang had another poor game. And now we come on to Newcastle. And Aubameyang hadn't started to have another poor game in my opinion. But I think
the first half was much the same from Palace in many ways. We did control the game and we had a very heavy abundance of possession and things like that. I mean, our total possession last night was 66.4 versus 33.6. We also had 20 shots on target back to early parts in the season. When we were doing 8 and 9 shots on target, we talked about getting more shots on target. 20 shots on target to their 4. That's a massive.
Do you mean you're saying the word
shots?
Yeah, you're saying the word target here,
so I'm reading the word on target above it on my screen in front of me. We had 6 shots on target, but 20 shots.
Yeah,
getting the ball away,
which is a significant improvement on where we've been in pre-Christmas.
100%. I felt last night watching us in the first half that players were doing really well. Tierney was cutting his teeth, getting back in. He did have a bit of tightness the week before, so he wouldn't have been looking to run out there like a nutcase straight away.
There were 3 integral changes to the starting 11 for Newcastle, weren't there? Tierney, Partey, and the one that deserves a big mention is Cedric.
So I think if we do a little like for like, Cedric versus Bellerin. What Cedric did last night, and he did very, very well, he totally stuck to his position, his style of play, respected the role in the team and did it accurately. And I think if a player is going to do your job properly, he ran up and down the line, he got forward at the right times, he stayed back at the right times, he stuck to his position, he looked to find space. Everything that Bellerin didn't do against Crystal Palace, Bellerin got in the way of a ball that was coming into the box that was going to go directly to Lacazette that could have led to a goal against Palace. Whereas Cedric stuck to the byline, cut inside and set up our third, which was a brilliant goal.
It was.
So that was a massive change to how we played.
Yeah, no, Cedric had a really, really, really good game. And it was good for me because I've obviously said a few things about him footballing wise. I think he's, he probably isn't the athlete that Bellerin is, but from a footballing perspective, I think he's a better footballer to me. And I thought he showed that in abundance last night. Some of his close control, the way he turned. There's a little gif or meme going around at the moment, the way he turns the guy playing Joe Linton, I think, and then gets away, drops it inside, bombs on. His delivery into the box is good. And the pace and the ability to set up Aubameyang's Arsenal's third goal, Aubameyang's second goal. Bellerin doesn't go to a byline and like hammer it across to a player. And, the player of Aubameyang's ability isn't, take it 100 mile an hour and just tuck it in, They are the kind of passes that Aubameyang wants, something is clinical with purpose.
So that's an interesting point. So that ball's crossed into the middle of the box. Aubameyang hits it at pace, finishes it 3-0. In the first half, Aubameyang's missed an open goal. He's hit the top corner of the post. In my opinion, that's harder to do than hit the target in that instance. You know, so you thought at that moment in time, here we go again, you know,
Yeah.
our talisman, our number one striker, our captain, the man who scores all the goals, not firing again. Here we go.
Yeah, with you.
But it turned for Arsenal in that game. Kieran Tierney and Cedric on both flanks at the right and left back played brilliantly well. But the third change from the lineup versus Palace was the reintroduction, if you will, our new signing, Thomas Partey. The way that Thomas Partey played last night, and I think we could talk a bit more in detail about some things he did later, but the way he played last night had me thinking, what if? What if Thomas Partey wasn't injured?
Yeah, I mean, look, Thomas Partey had a fine game against Man United, but Arsenal was still poor, and we just played Man United on the right night, you know, because they've gone on and there's a bit of breathing space for them at the top of the league now. But yeah, it's very difficult to do what ifs. Do you know what I mean? What's your age? I would say, and if my uncle had,
if my auntie had bollock, she'd be my uncle. That is correct. But no, but the thing is, James,
I know what you mean. Yeah, go on.
It's something we've been lacking all season long.
But there's so many cardinal changes to things now, Bob, that when he still wasn't in the team that have changed, that make it easier for him to come back in. You know, if he'd have been fit around all those times, you're telling me that he would have made 5 attacking players drop out of being in barren, dreadful form to being in form again. It just wouldn't have happened. He's come into a side now where Saka's playing right side. He's in a rich reign of form. He's never played with Smith-Rowe before. And again, I want to give Lacazette respect. He's not got his goal or assist last night, which I know he looked like he was kicking himself for. But he was involved in 2 of the 3 goals. He had a great chance saved by, Darlow made 3 or 4 massive saves. We could have had 5, 6, 7 last night. You know, in the second half, the ball from Saka on the angle, Lacazette's done everything right there at the back post, like getting up high, heading it down and hard into the bottom left. Because a fine save by Darlow. The assist that he set up with Saka, where I think it's Lascelles who comes in and just throws his body at it, where it's going to be a certain goal. You know, on another evening, Lacazette has another goal and an assist last night. So he's had a great game again. When that goal that Saka scores from Smith-Rowe, again, Lacazette's involved in the build-up with that. He's done a lot of work with those 2 when I think Smith-Rowe's assisted Saka's last 3 goals. But Lacazette's been involved in all 3 of them, I think.
Lacazette, in that number 9 role, I'm calling it an 8.5, 9.5 role, if you know, sort of floating in and out, is really leading the line fantastically well. And he's getting goals, he's getting assists. It's his movement when he's not got the ball as much as anything. He's getting in the right positions, something that when I've seen Nketiah play, he's not done. And in all fairness, when Aubameyang played for the middle, he didn't do it either. You know, my views on Aubameyang. He plays too far forward, in my opinion, for the style we play.
Yeah, he does. And do you know what's been really good about showing Aubameyang through the middle is that one, you know, what it shows about Lacazette is he works smart. Do you know what I mean? He is just a very, very, you know, he's got a good football brain, as they call it, because he's very good in tracking the central defence. He puts his foot in. He's quite aggressive as well. Often makes little fouls, sometimes leads to bookings, but often gets called upon for just being a bit too overzealous. But with Aubameyang, now you've seen him back in that inverted left-hand side role. I still thought in the first 50 minutes last night before he gets his goal, he looks to just be playing a little bit with the handbrake on, that he's still a little bit conscious of being out of form. But then when Partey clips the ball early, which is what you do miss from Ceballos has not got the ability to get the ball out of his feet, look up and play that pass and get Aubameyang off early. And he's still rapid, Aubameyang, you know. And that when you play a team like Newcastle, who defended so deep in the first half to not concede, you do need the ability of someone to be able to, in a split second, play a 40-yard diagonal ball that destroys their shape. And that's when Aubameyang had to take his chance. Now, he did take his chance. He just took his chance in a very different way to what I expected, again, going outside onto his left foot. And it actually looked like Darlow goes to ground really early. But I think Aubameyang, I'm going to throw this one out there. I'm not sure if he doesn't miskick that first goal. It kind of goes quite left and quite high very quickly off his left foot. And the keeper's... What do you think?
I think that goal sort of come out of nowhere for me. You know, I was chatting with a friend at the time, a fellow Gooner, and we were sort of arming and ahhing about what was going to happen in the first half and how lackluster again the second half, and how lackluster again the first was. And next thing you know, Aubameyang's got a great pass from the boy Partey, and he's banged it in the net. And I'm like, where's this come from? I'm not too sure if it was a missed kick or not, but all I did know is it beat the keeper, all ends up, and we went 1-0 up, and I cheered rejoicefully.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So did I. I was elated to see it, and I was happy to see the somersault back in full fettle. It was a great goal, and it just showed what we've missed with Thomas Partey. And again, it's the point I was trying to make, that he has got such a variety in his game. He travels with the ball. It's just the little things he does, Bob. When he looks under pressure, he doesn't... when you're watching as a fan, you're like, oh, fuck, he's under pressure, he's getting pressed. He seems so composed with the football. He just doesn't seem bothered by it. You know, it does remind me a bit of Vieira in that instance. He did this little thing in the middle of the park yesterday where I thought he had his back to the oncoming player, and he's received a pass a bit short. And I thought, oh, he's going to smash him and lose possession there beyond the counter. And he turned and he popped it off his right foot about 5 yards towards, sort of, say, 10 o'clock on a clock face. It was just a little passage of a little pocket of space where he can knock the ball 5 yards and no one else can get to it. He completely gets away from this guy who's pressed him. This guy who's pressed him is now completely out of the game, and then he can travel 20 yards and nonchalantly just knock it off. Do you remember that little moment? Do you remember?
I was watching him last night, everything he did.
Yeah.
And I just thought, it reminded me of going back to infant school. And there you are, you're at the very first school. You're playing football out in the playground as 8-year-olds. You know, trying your best to be whatever footballer you want to be. And then all of a sudden, a teacher or a student teacher comes along and plays with you. And they're bigger and they're taller and they're stronger, and they just dribble past everybody and no one can get the ball off them. And they pass the ball right and they shoot the ball right.
Yeah.
And I just thought Thomas Partey looked like he was a dad playing with kids last night. It was an elite, but it was, so I don't want to wax lyrical and say, oh my God, he's the best thing since sliced bread or any bread at all. But it's probably the best loaf we've had in a while in that position.
Oh yeah, no, he is your freshly baked tiger, isn't he?
It was really lovely because you said it just then. He looked like he could get dispossessed. He didn't look like he could get dispossessed at all. It was like the ball was on a string with him, and he put it wherever he wanted to put it. The weight of pass was delicious, you know, and that's something I think that Ceballos. And I will categorically say this. I felt that sometimes with Ceballos and El Nene especially, sometimes their weight of pass isn't good enough. Thomas Partey hit every pass perfectly on the fizz last night. If it needed to travel up 25 yards, that ball was sent to travel 25 yards straight to the person. Crisp passing. And that's a massive difference, because it cuts out and it reduces a chance for an interception. He dominated the midfield with us last night. You know, we had 634 passes to their 323 passes. Absolutely dominated. Him and Xhaka in the middle of the park, I think they got the ball back between them something like 11 times, and that was just the first half. You know, their dispossession of the opposition as good as their retention of the ball and what they do with it. I know it's Newcastle, they're in a bad vein of form, but you still got to play the game of football, and they played it brilliantly last night. If you go back against Burnley, Aston Villa, Wolverhampton Wanderers, Leeds United, we played those games not able to control the midfield, not able to do a job properly. Last night, boom, brilliantly controlling the midfield. All in all, I really enjoyed it. Certainly, I really enjoyed the second half. And if you will, the second half of the first half, you could see us building up. And I said to you, we're doing better here, aren't we? But we definitely needed a goal. And that happened early on in the second half.
Yeah, he did, and it really set the tone, and it is a bit like the old. I remember watching Arsenal of old with Wenger. You always want, if you scored the first goal in a game, you had a very, 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 very. I mean, I know it's a cliche, but it's the way you used to kind of, draw the walls out, because teams do defend deep against Arsenal, and the only way you get them to come out is when they need to achieve something from the game. And as soon as they had to play up 5 yards to try and aid Wilson and Carroll, who I was fucking worried about, you give our front line that extra 5 yards. And I've got to say, I've been so impressed with Smith-Rowe since he's been in the side. He does find the pockets really, really well. I know he's been touted as the Croydon KDB. He's not actually. De Bruyne is a player probably that I would, kind of compare him with. He actually probably reminds me a little bit more of like a Eden Hazard. The way in which he runs. I mean, Hazard scored a lot more goals, but he's a bit more direct in his travelling. In whereby De Bruyne is such a good distributor of the ball. Actually, do you know what, he plays the game a little bit like a raw early days Jack Wilshere. He tries to draw the tackle, draw the player, and it's quick chip offs. He's playing. It's the triangles. It's a bit like the El Rondo stuff. Smith-Rowe, and he's off the shoulder, he's gone. And he's been so good at amending defence's shape. People that are setting up in 2-4s, he just has this talent of breaking the opposition shape by creating passing patterns and running at teams. And he's been brilliant. And Lacazette looks like he's flourished playing with him. And Saka, another, just whose game's gone up another gear by Smith-Rowe coming into the team. And I think when we first saw Partey come through, and we watched that game against Man United, I think we thought that probably Partey and El Neni was now the two. But
not a chance, my friend, not a chance.
Yeah, and that was because we were playing a 3-5-2. But, we have been told that obviously Arteta now wants to move into a 4-3-3, and he has slowly kind of bedded it in, and now it looks like it's really working. I thought you
were going to say he wants to move into a bungalow.
No,
he wants to move into a nice apartment overlooking the Thames.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, then look at the London Christmas lights then. And now he's in a 3. I think he's found you just couldn't at the moment, unless Arsenal wake up and do something in the transfer market in retrospect of players coming in. Partey, Xhaka, Smith-Rowe is just streets ahead of any other 3, I think,
I absolutely agree. What they've done as a 3, the way they're playing, the way they're incorporating with, can't forget Saka, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a minute. But no, they looked brilliantly last night, and I think that's the way forward for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it is. I mentioned it earlier, and I do want to. Holdings signed a 3.5-year extension this week. I think since we first signed him, he's lost his hair. He's gained a set of veneers, so he's into sort of full London mode now after moving down from the north. But I think he's actually having a really, really good run of games. Gabriel was getting all the plaudits, wasn't he, for coming in as a new player and was obviously our player of the month for 3 months in a row. And all of a sudden now he hasn't played for 6 or 7 games, maybe more. And Mari was having a really good run of games. And now Louise has had 3 really solid games, but they've all done it partnering Holding. And I think actually he's been the really, really solid factor. And I thought he showed it last night. It just looked like he said to himself, I've got a new contract, which is great, shows that the club believe in me. I've been injury-free for a long time, touch wood, and that continues. And no matter who I've partnered with, I've been able to achieve, a fair chunk of clean sheets. So, because his passing last night to me just looked like he took it up a gear. He was distributing the ball off right and left foot. And again, he was another one who was trying to move the ball quickly from the back, I thought, last night. It just looked like it was crisper.
Absolutely. I think Rob Holding, did the anomaly, signed a new contract and then starts playing well. That's unusual for Arsenal. But no, you're right, James. The last few games, he's really came into his own. But the one thing I'll say, it goes back to what I said to you many pods ago. We're shooting more. We are attacking more. We're scoring more. It is not ironic that our defenders are keeping clean sheets or playing well when we are scoring goals up front. That's it.
Yeah.
If you shoot, they can't. The maths, as Arteta likes to call it, is there.
Yeah.
But Partey last night, wow, I still can't get over him. He was really good.
And what do you make of this Cedric versus Bellerin saga? What do you do now after Cedric's had a game like that? He's had a 9 out of 10 game, in my opinion. He's been faultless, really.
I tell you what, Cedric is the man in possession, if you will. I think he should play again. I certainly would play him again in the Cup at the weekend when we find out who we're playing against. So I would definitely play Cedric at the weekend. And I would just see what happens. We looked slightly better with him in the side. Don't get me wrong, if Bellerin plays brilliantly, he's better than Cedric. But I think Cedric, when the two of them don't play well, I think Cedric's discipline sort of gets him through and makes us a stronger team.
Because we've got that cup game now, and then we've got 3 games come really, really quick. We've got Southampton away, United at home on the Saturday, the 30th. So Southampton away on the 27th, United at home on the 30th. And
in all intensive purposes, we could play Southampton away twice in 4 days.
Yeah.
We then go United Wolves, as you just said, Villa, and then back to the FA Cup on the between the 8th and the 11th. And that would be against the winner of Wolves or Chorley. So again, you could be playing Wolves twice in the space of a week, which in all intents and purposes you think you could be doing. And then obviously we think Europe might start up again on the 18th of February, but there's a cat in house chance of that.
So to finish off, we've taken 4 points from a possible 6 against Newcastle and Palace. It's not A+, but it's certainly above average. So maybe
better than what we have been doing, last year before Christmas. So I would say it was a good B+, yeah.
Yeah, 2 clean sheets, which is great. Now starting to consistently, I say consistently, but on more than a few occasions now scored 2 or more goals in a game, which is absolutely important. And your man of the match, Bob, was?
Last night, man of the match. For me, the man of the match last night, I will say I'm going to say Smith Rowe.
Smith Rowe? I thought you would have gone Partey and his balls, which brings you on nicely to your point.
Partey and Smith Rowe, what they have done that we haven't had is they have created more, and they create more quite simply with the quality of their balls. And having good quality balls is important. It's important for Arsenal Football Club, and it's important for men. And with that, let's take a break.
See you in a minute.
This week's episode of @JimBobCast is brought to you by Manscaped, the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Do you wish you can have the ball skills of an Ozil or a Messi? Well, now you can. The Perfect Package 3.0 from Manscaped is the only way to transform your Ballon d'Ors into your Ballon d'Ors. Manscaped offer precision-engineered tools for your family jewels, and the Lawnmower 3.0 is the Rolls-Royce of trimmers. It literally is the nuts. It's safe on your balls, and with skin-safe technology, there's no nicks or snags, so they won't end up looking like they've been slide tackled by Roy Keane. It's cordless and waterproof, so you can shave away in the shower, and it's even got an LED light so you can see exactly where you're going. It's a bit like a miner's helmet for your helmet. You'll go from David Luiz to Pierluigi Collina in no time at all. The Perfect Package 3.0 doesn't stop there. They have a full range of gonad gubbins. There's no more Betty Swallocks with the Crop Preserver ball deodorant. They make your testicles their besticles, smooth and silky, smelling so sweet, they will be known as the special ones forevermore. They think it's all over. Well, it isn't. No longer will your cluster get into a fluster, you'll also get ball toner. Crop Reviver is sensational. I love a cheeky little spritz on my bits. Guys, don't let yourself get nutmegged. Get your hands on the Perfect Package 3.0. It will change your life forever and make your testes their absolute besties. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code JimBob20 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. Just use the code JimBob20. I promise you, your balls will thank you. And we're back. How are you, James?
I'm very good.
So there we are, our friends at Manscaped. Talking about them, I have the trimmer in my hand, actually, and I'm wearing the nice shirt they gave me, you know.
Bob is about to do a live ball examination.
Well, I'm not sure. I might get them. Well, it's you just have to give them a trim, and you know. So when you're trimming, you just basically have to just take the hair, and if you keep it flat, then what will happen is you don't snag anything, you know, and you've got to go up, almost going with the grain. And when you go with the grain, you end up with good quality, smooth, shiny, silky balls.
Yeah, whilst we're joking aside, and Bob is running his razor probably along the thigh of his denim garms, we're very grateful for partnering with Manscaped.com. Clearly the number one in leading sort of male grooming products at the moment. And this show will also leave you with a tag with the, and you would have heard the ad, the Jim Bob 20 nudge, so you guys can crack on and give them a try out and get some discount on us. So, Bob,
so I've used the kit.
Yeah,
I've used the kit, and my missus has used it on me as well. And
go on, Nicola.
Yeah, not only is it actually good quality, it's actually good fun. She was like a cross between Neil Buchanan and Van Gogh grooming me, you know, doing it was like I had it's like crop circles down there now. I had 4 people coming along from Aliens. But
please tell everyone who Neil Buchanan is, because we've got quite a lot of listeners in America.
Neil Buchanan from Art Attack on what would be CITV used to do great art and things like that. But yeah. or Bob from The Joy of Painting. He had a fine hair on him, Bob from The Joy of Painting. Anyway, let's get on with the second part of today's show.
Yeah.
And it's the end of an era, James.
Yeah, it is. It's an incredibly. I do genuinely find it incredibly sad. It's an incredibly sad moment. Mesut Ozil is. I believe it will be by mutual consent terminating his Arsenal contract 6 months earlier than it's due to finish. And I think from all of the social media hype that his team have been very creative putting together is joining his hometown club Fenerbahce in Turkey. And after 7.5 years at Arsenal, he has divided just about every fucking person who's got an opinion on football, whether it be the chairman of Arsenal Football Club, to the playing staff, and federations that run the German international team, to the political entities that control football in China, to fucking esports and e-commerce businesses in America. I mean, you know, this guy really has globally developed an opinion. He has almost become the proverbial Marmite of football now.
He is better than Division than Carol Vorderman.
Yes, absolutely.
One for the kids there.
Yeah. I will be guided on this conversation by you. It needs to be talked about in so many different ways. Where do you want to start with Mesut Ozil?
Well, I think what we have to go back to is we'll go back to our Christmas special, and we talk about the fact we put him firmly in sort of 3rd or 4th place on our respective top 10 players of all Emirates time. He is the most decorated footballer within the Emirates history, winning 4 FA Cups. He's won 4 he's been in the squad for 3 Community Shields. You know, he has got countless assists. He's contributed countless goals to Arsenal, played some phenomenal football, scored some good goals as well. And Mesut Ozil has been a fine footballer for Arsenal. I will say that now to you. The statistics of him, they back it up left, right and centre, to be honest with you, James. And we could talk statistics of Mesut Ozil quite a lot. Started off as a number 11, ended up as a number 10. Played for 3 different managers.
4?
Freddie Ljungberg, yes. Yeah, and I just think he had to come to an end. Everything has to come to an end. I think not only does Mesut Ozil's time at Arsenal, should it have come to an end, whether you have whatever view you have about him playing for the side or not this season is neither here nor there. I certainly do believe it would have come to an end at the end of this season. I don't believe Arsenal would have renewed his contract irrelevantly just because he's on too much money, and with what's happened with the pandemic and things like that, his salary is a lot of money. So that's a logical way of looking at Mesut Ozil.
So where do you want? This is the point, though. What I want to say about where do you want to start? Fan base is divided because, and the media and the journalists around football, are divided because they believe that Mesut Ozil. Some believe he is just, a magician of the game, a don of the creative midfield, arguably one of the best tens of that cam position to play in Europe for years and years and years. Stats back it up, World Cups back it up, chances created stats in the two main divisions that he's played his career in back it up. But then others say he's lazy, he has a bad attitude, he doesn't tackle, he doesn't do it in the big games. So, this is what I mean by where do you want to start with Ozil? You refer to the 10 versus 11 part, because the 10 almost came in conjunction with Jack Wilshere leaving Arsenal, and Ozil's career for Arsenal in the 11 shirt is almost like, a completely different player has taken on the 10 shirt.
Yes, indeed.
But, but overall, the stats balance that his career at Arsenal, if people kind of sit back and look at them, you're kind of... It's very difficult to turn around and have a grievance with a footballer who most class as one of the finest to play in an era where you've been at a stadium for now nigh on 13 years. So he spent 60% or 65% of the time that the stadiums existed as an Arsenal player. And he's kind of recognized, he's only really surpassed by Sanchez, Van Persie and Fabregas, who have all had illustrious Arsenal careers, So it's a really, really difficult one for me. Mesut Ozil signifies so much for me at Arsenal. The demise of Arsenal Football Club under the Kroenke ownership, where we were just losing top player after top player after top player, was heartbreaking. After growing up as a child, watching an invincible season, which was mesmerising, to then losing in a Champions League final, which almost kind of felt like we were robbed of it, then losing our talisman in Henry in really unforeseen circumstances. Then we should have won the league in 08-09, and we didn't. And then we just go on this run of things. Then we just get embarrassed with the whole Fabregas to Barcelona thing every year. Eventually happens. Then Van Persie has to go. Nasri, I said this to you when we had a bit of a conversation the other day about how every single player in the last 15 years, I believe, has shithoused us. The Nasri situation about being booed at every time he touched the ball and leaves for City a couple of days later. Adebayor making a mockery of our fans when he scores against us. No one's ever done that. I can't think of any other moment where a player has so much hatred towards his previous employer, where he wants to run 100 yards and celebrate in front of the people that he used to play for. The way in which we've allowed Ramsey to leave on a free transfer, who could easily generate a £50 million price tag. It just goes on and on and on. And then you've got a cumulative player base now of Ramsey, Cazorla. Obviously, Cazorla's been bereft with injuries, so that's a tough one. But you've got Ramsey, Cazorla, Ozil, Sanchez, and now Ozil, Sanchez, Ramsey, Cazorla. There is one other. Wilshere's obviously left on a free as well. But I'm sure there was one other player. But look, Sanchez subsequently was an exchange for Mkhitaryan, but Mkhitaryan's contract was terminated and he was allowed to join Roma for a free. So all those players have walked out the door for free.
It's unbelievable. If you add in Van Persie and Cesc Fabregas, you've moved on Ozil, Sanchez, Ramsey.
Well, your top five, Bob, our top five from the Christmas special of the Emirates era has generated a combined transfer fee total of £46 million. Our top five Emirates players.
Yeah.
Three free transfers, one for 20 million to United and one for 26 million to Barcelona. I believe that's what Cesc cost, because we didn't get the additional reward payments because he left so soon after.
It's so bad.
So then I bring you back to that point where we went through all of those elements, yeah, and and what's so bizarre about them letting Van Persie go was obviously if they had told Van Persie that we're going to fucking do something here, we're going to bring in a player like M1Ö. Imagine Özil's chance creation in those early seasons, because you've given me the stats here. He had 43 assists in in his first 3 seasons, over and above the fact that he created 39 chances. So that's 82 chances, of which 43 were converted. If you had someone like Van Persie playing, the assists would have gone up and the chance creation would have gone down, because they would have been goals.
Absolutely, James. Absolutely.
And that's just it. And Özil signified something for Arsenal fans and Arsenal Football Club that was like, hang on a fucking second, we're not done here being in the upper echelon of football clubs in Europe. Arsene Wenger and this football club can draw players like M1Ö Özil, a Champions League winner from Real Madrid. So just hold fire it, like we're not done,
That was a player that went on that very season, to go and win the World Cup.
Yes, it was.
That's a player that we bought a player. We went out and bought a player dining at the top table,
And he came in straight away and added something. 21 goal contributions in his first season in 42 games. It's a goal contribution every 2 games, guaranteed,
I think what you've got to look at is, if you look at Özil's seasons there, that first season, 13-14, he in total contributed around about 21% of all of our goals, whether he scored it or set it up, 20%. And in 15-16, he actually contributed nigh on a third of all of Arsenal Football Club's goals. He gave us a third. In 15-16, he also had those 28 in the Premier League, big chances that weren't converted. Up until January 2016, it had been, he actually had 16 assists, ended the league season with 19.
Yeah, 16 assists on January the 17th, which if you look at your clock now, that's around about now. That's mental, isn't it? Your max would have played, 21 games at that point. To have 16 assists in 21 games is just unheard of.
And you've got someone like Giroud that same season, Olivier Giroud's stats that same season. And he gets lambasted for this.
Yeah, he does,
he missed 13 big chances that season. So Özil's had 28 big chances not converted, and Olivier Giroud's missed 13 chances that season.
Yeah, that's mental, isn't it? To have 28 goal contributions and have a further 20, and you've created a further 28 chances. That's just in the Prem. That's obviously not in the Champions League and also the FA Cup. To be involved in big chances, assists and goals, to say, I'll put on over 58 scoreable chances, of which 28 were converted. The thing is, the numbers suggest, Bob, that something has gone cardinally wrong. The other side of M1Ö Özil, which is his off-field relationships, his demeanour, something in his personality, something is not right. And I just want to make sure that the point's known from my point of view that M1Ö Özil, the footballer, absolutely did everything he should have done for Arsenal Football Club. I do not believe for a moment, not with a single breath, that I think he's failed Arsenal Football Club in his career. 121 goal contributions in 256 games. Statistically, he is the same as Fabregas. He's got the same output as Fabregas. We looked at this on the Christmas special. If he'd have played another 48 games for Arsenal, he would have finished within 1 or 2 goal contributions that Cesc did, just based on law of averages. And again, everyone holds Cesc so dear to their heart. He wasn't ushered out of any door. He's red carpeted out the front door. Cesc.
There's so many other players that are going to get a better treatment of him. Arsenal. Fenerbahce and M1Ö Özil have been openly tweeting and posting on Instagram about his arrival at the club, and not a single murmur from Arsenal Football Club. Arsenal Football Club players, and I want to come on to that part in a moment. Arsenal Football Club players tweeting. Socrates came out today. Interesting, the players that are coming out. Socrates, Guendouzi, Mustafi, a lot of the players that are sort of on the periphery at Arsenal are the ones saying, see you later, pal. Sorry, you're the best. We're really sorry and all that. Obviously, you had the tweet of that, the post that Lacazette and Aubameyang instigated, discussing who should wear the number 10 shirt. But that's neither here nor there. I think that Arsenal, I think we can both agree it's not footballing reasons why Mesut Ozil's not playing.
I mean, yeah, but that's our opinion. Obviously, others have had their opinion. People on what I have seen a little bit on Twitter are saying it's 100% footballing reasons, but I don't believe personally that it is. I think there's two cardinal things that have left to the ruins in Mesut Ozil's relationship.
Before we move on to the ruin in the relationship, let's look at that footballing reason.
Yeah.
So last season before, Arsenal's chance creation dropped through the floor, blah, blah, blah. I mean, if you look at Mesut Ozil's minutes per game, his last 2 seasons, he's averaging 73 minutes per game. In his previous 5 seasons at the football club, he was averaging nearly 85 minutes per game that he was playing. His minutes per game, the amount of games he's playing, much, much higher. Other things that we will look at, maybe some of his stats later, but he's not playing as much for the football club. The last few seasons, Arsenal have been totally missing and lacking in that midfielder role. We've had what I would call a diet midfield. We've had not the right people around him up front. This season, we've brought in Thomas Partey. This season, we've got right wingers like Saka and even Pepe to say. We've got a left back like Kieran Tierney. We've got players that are going to be able to complement him. Yet, for footballing reasons, possibly in the best, most perfect side for him since 15-16, we've gone, nah, not going to play you.
And with the utmost respect to the next sentence I say, someone in that club believes that they will get more of an output out of Joe Willock and Danny Ceballos than they will Mesut Ozil. I just cannot conform to that being accurate. And unless Mikel Arteta actually, as a coach, because I don't know him personally, is that regimented in his beliefs about how drilled he wants his side to be, and he believes that the defensive duties those players will add over the creative ability that Ozil has will mean that he will end up with more players with them playing in the side than Mesut Ozil. And with all due respect, I have to tell him that I believe he's wrong, because his points per game average is down on all the other seasons that Mesut Ozil has been a registered footballer.
Arsenal's points per game is very interesting here. In all of his seasons at Arsenal, if you want to look at points per game, 13-14 his first season, 1.97. 14-15, again, 1.97. 15-16, 1.87. Again, 1.97 in 16-17. 17-18, which was Wenger's last year, 1.66. And then Emery's first year, 1.84, when we missed out on Champions League by a point. But in the last 2 seasons, this season for current and last season, we're averaging less than 1.5 points. 1.47 and 1.42 respectively.
And he's only played 1,800 minutes of those 7,500 minutes that have happened in that period. Do you know what I mean? So he can't be held accountable. He's played in less than 25% of the minutes. And in the previous season, where it was 1.84, he played in 2,400 of the 3,400. So he played in 67% when it was 1.84. So, the data tells you that when he's in the side, Arsenal have been better. He's just there to plain and see. We've done all of the stats around it. So this is the point about where he sets the divide. And the most frustrating thing about Arsenal buying Thomas Partey are exactly the points that you just made. That, a number 10, I must say, I don't see anything particularly in Smith Rowe's game where I remember a last-ditch tackle or a tracking that he makes. And a load of people say that Ozil's lazy. If you actually go and look at the data, like distance covered per game. He only ever used to get beaten in distance covered by Aaron Ramsey, who was a ridiculous athlete.
Yeah, that's exactly it, James. So, I sometimes when I watch Mesut Ozil for Arsenal, I thought, where are you, pal? This is a perfect game for you. And he didn't turn up for whatever reason.
He has had games where he has not been completely at the races. He's had bad games for Arsenal. There's absolutely no denying it. I'm not defending him.
Let's be honest here, James. Arsene Wenger, during his, even if you want to use the Mesut Ozil era, even slightly before that, had this tendency to do two things. Arsene Wenger's sides will go to a Stoke and get bullied and beaten up and not get a result. They'll go to a top four side and get beaten as well. So that was something that Wenger's sides had a tendency to do. I'm using Wenger's sides here because obviously under Emery and under potentially Arteta, as we can now see, we've had a tendency not to win games full stop. But Wenger's sides had a tendency to go to these teams that bullied a team and get beat, go to a top side and get beat. And I would say that those would be the games where Ozil wouldn't turn up. So is Ozil not turning up as fault of Ozil, or is Ozil not turning up as fault of the way that the football team's playing around him? Sanchez never turned up to games on occasion.
No, exactly. And one player could never be completely culpable for an entire team's performance,
Unless your name is Shokran Mustafi.
Yeah, very true. But look, Bob, we did some data earlier, didn't we? Because there was a very interesting stat came out from WhoScored.com, who are another stats-based website who are great at capturing information. And, only 5 players have since 13-14 season have contributed over 500 chances created in that time, which is mental to think that you've created half a bag of chances. But they were Eriksen, Ozil, De Bruyne, Silva, and Eden Hazard. And Ozil had the best chance creation per minute out of the 5 of them, only very, very, very narrowly beating Kevin De Bruyne. But Kevin De Bruyne is held in such a higher regard than Mesut Ozil. So, again, it brings me back to my point. There is something that Ozil does that just makes people dislike him, because everyone loves Kevin De Bruyne. Everyone, I adore him. I love watching him. I'm an Arsenal fan, so I adore Mesut Ozil. I've seen him play many a fine game for Arsenal. And I never thought I'd see something like Cesc post-Cesc, and I saw it in abundance of Ozil. He was.
If you look at those stats that we provided, on the chances and the games, Mesut Ozil is creating over 184 games, and Nats Crimmet over 3 chances a game. Kevin De Bruyne is a Nats Crimmet under 3 chances a game, because everyone just counts Kevin De Bruyne at Manchester City. They forget he played 3 times for Chelsea.
Yeah.
If I remove his 3 times for Chelsea, let's just do that. There we go. There's nothing in between him and Ozil, although Ozil is still higher than him by 0.02. But what you're looking at here
but what you're saying, no one who is a neutral football fan allows Ozil to be involved in a De Bruyne conversation. It gets dismissed before you even provide data.
I suppose the difference is, and this is one of the reasons where the data, if you look at Ozil 184 games, Kevin De Bruyne 170 games, the chances they've created 558, 513 respectively.
Yeah.
If you look at those as numbers, Ozil has created more chances than De Bruyne in a per game ratio.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is De Bruyne's doing it for Aguero, who has probably got one of the best goals per game ratios of any forward in Premier League history. Without getting stats out and actually computing it, I'd say it's the best. Even our good friend Ronaldo, because of his first seasons, I'd say that. Don't hold me against it.
No, and I think you're right. And the offshoot of that was, if it's not De Bruyne, it's Jesus, Sterling, Sane, God knows who else. There's not really Mahrez. I'm just trying to think.
Ozil had played, like you said, with Robin Van Persie, even though it was coming to the end of his career in England, If he'd have played with Robin Van Persie,
whoa. He left Arsenal to go and win a league title at Man United. So it's not.
If he'd have played with him, if Giroud had been 10% better that season, we'd have won the league.
I mean, look, the difference was that it was Giroud, it was Podolski, it was Welbeck, it was Walcott, it was Lucas Perez, and it was Joel Campbell. It was also Alexis Sanchez.
Also Alexis Sanchez at the same time.
Yeah. Alexis Sanchez at that time would have got in any team in the country without a shadow of a doubt.
Well, with respects other than Barcelona, probably the world. But
Bob, with all due respect, right? When Ozil came to the Premier League, you mentioned that point about Van Persie. So the 13-14 season and the 14-15 season, Van Persie's record at Man United was still very, very good.
He had a phenomenal season at United.
Yeah, he still contributed 28 goals in 60 games, just under 60 games. So he's still scoring 1 in 2 for Man United. So whilst Ozil was in the league. Football is narrow margins. I think where we're getting to with Meza is that you're absolutely right. And I just checked before we got onto the conversation that Arsenal, the only thing that's been asked is in Arteta's pre-match presser before the Newcastle game, is like, he was asked the question, is the closest Ozil's ever been to leaving the football club? And all he said was, at the moment, Edu sorts that situation out, but there's nothing concrete at the moment. And I don't know when that was recorded before the Newcastle game. I imagine it's probably maybe a day before that. Ozil's been on the Fenerbahce social medias for a couple of days now. Ozil on his own social media, which if you combine Twitter and Instagram, albeit I imagine some of it's duplicated, is just under 50 million people on his social media platform. He has now boarded Fenerbahce's chairman's private jet. He's then been greeted off it. Fenerbahce's YouTube channel has posted a 42-minute video of the event. He's then been posted at Fenerbahce's site holding a flag above his head. He's then since posted a photo of him holding hands with a younger Mesut Ozil in a Fenerbahce kit, showing, a dream maybe to a reality. He's then since posted a photo of him shaking hands of him in his Arsenal kit to then him in his Fenerbahce kit. Like you said earlier, multiple comments from multiple Arsenal employees, being footballers, and no announcement from the football club. And we ran a poll this week, didn't we?
I'll tell you this, James, sorry to interrupt. Another thing that's been on there on Fenerbahce's social media, they have posted a link to the Mesut Ozil's farewell to London, stating it is the only place that you can watch this official video is if you subscribed to their channel.
Yeah. And part of his contract will definitely be, we need you to raise the social platform of Turkish football. We need you to raise our platform over here. So he's already doing. Very interestingly, obviously, Robin Van Persie left Man United for Fenerbahce. So he's already massively on the hype. And I would have loved to have taken a screen dump of how many followers Fenerbahce had pre-Ozil and where it sits at now. But I imagine the numbers are going astronomical. So, and look, Bob, we have alluded to these political issues. We've got onto them a little bit earlier. The Chinese sponsor of Arsenal that also is a massive Premier League sponsor, he has obviously had an issue with the Uyghur Muslims and defending them for, their kind of what's happenings in China. And second to that, obviously his direct issue with Arsenal Football Club was around this first furlough issue, where Arsenal presented a case to all of the players and requested they take a pay cut. And it was Ozil who stood up and refused to take a pay cut because the football club weren't prepared to tell him the reasons as to why they needed the playing staff to take a pay cut. And I believe, actually, at the time, his reason behind it was, if I take a pay cut, you don't need to let any staff go, or and they went on to make the best part of 50 to 60 redundancies, I believe.
Well, let's go back to the Chinese point, just because it was the first point made and the first thing that happened in chronological order. He stood out for an absolute atrocity against people within the human race, of one body of people causing severe harm and mistreatment to another. And he has been lambasted for this. He has been possibly ostracised from playing for his football club because of it due to monetary issues. Whereas on the other side of the coin, Marcus Rashford has stood up and he has campaigned against one body of people severely mistreating another body of people. He's been given honours by the Queen. He's been rightly regarded in every form of media out there, Parliament, etc., and he's making a difference. Now, I, for one, think that human beings deserve the right to be treated kindly by one another. That's it. You know, whether it's children that are hungry and whether it's a religion or a race of people or a population of a certain part of a country that are being oppressed because of their beliefs. It don't matter. Ozil says it, Arsenal don't do it because money's involved, but because it's great publicity for United, he's been seen as some sort of, well, he is rightfully so, Rashford. You tell me what the difference is, James. Tell me what the difference is between one bloke saying that's really harsh and really mean and really nasty, you're doing that to those Muslims in China, and one person going, that's really harsh and that's really mean that you're not feeding kids.
But
what's the difference?
The fact that the ownership of Manchester United aren't Tories, I haven't got a fucking clue. You know, but what Marcus Rashford has tried to achieve for the school children of this country, of which I have two, has been nothing short of fantastic. I think there's a cat being attacked somewhere.
There does.
I don't look if there's a fucking tiger about to pounce on me or something. But what Marcus Rashford has been able to achieve this year is nothing short of brilliant. But like you say, he's been rewarded by the Queen. He has obviously been perceived as someone who is using his social media presence to do great things with it. And, you know, we knew straight away when Mesut Ozil came over to the UK, he was a fully practicing Muslim. You know, he is of religious belief. If you go and watch Arsenal play, he has almost like a ceremony of events that happen before he plays football, with the way in which he does his prayers and wipes his face before a game. People have thrown food onto the pitch previously and he's kissed the food and touched his head. So, things that are extremely natural to someone of their religious belief in the middle of a football game in front of 60,000 people. You know, the way in which obviously Ozil takes his religious beliefs, you can tell that obviously he takes them very, very seriously, celebrates Eid openly and all of these things. So when an element of his culture has come under attack, obviously he feels that it's important for him to probably be one of the most publicised Muslims operating in the world, you know, with the fact that he has such a large social media presence, that he thinks he's well within his right to have an opinion on it.
He's well within his rights to have an opinion on it, full stop, James. If you see, this is a difference between right and wrong. You know, it doesn't matter what sports, you know, Colin Kaepernick in America, the first one.
Colin Kaepernick, yeah.
Excuse me, I don't watch American football. I just know about it.
No,
you know?
Yeah, I know who you mean.
You've got one person that goes down on his knee and he's ripped to shreds about it. Now you can't get people off their knees. Not that I'm saying that's a bad.
No, I agree with you, and I say fashionable because we are now embodying it in our game in the UK, and I think absolutely right. You know, we absolutely should stand up for racism. Because it's a despicable thing and it shouldn't be encouraged.
He's donated so much to so many underprivileged children, whether they be people that require life-saving surgery, whether they be people that are hungry. Nobody mentions how much food Mesut Ozil has provided for the people of North London, etc., etc.
And do you know what? That's actually very, very good research on your part, because I think he sponsors a local hospital in North London. I can't remember seeing a stat somewhere, but there's hundreds of children's, you know, I'm not sure if it's quite life-saving, but maybe life-changing surgery that he's paid for.
He's done a lot with cleft palates, I believe.
Yeah, often speaking to Arsenal fans who are big fans of his who are in a very, very underprivileged circumstances through their medical conditions, and he's given bundles back to the communities for doing that. But you're absolutely right, Bob. It's not even talked about. It's chip shop paper. It doesn't even get the daylight that something like that deserves. And
see, well, that's a brilliant point, James. So we've talked about his views in China. Let's slate him and maybe drop him from the club from it. It neatly brings us on to your second point. I'm not taking a pay cut. You get your likes of your Piers Morgans now say, oh, look at you wanting to take your fat wages. No, Mesut Ozil didn't want to take a pay cut because he didn't want the money to go back to Stan Kroenke's pocket. He's taken his full salary every week and he's made sure kids have been fed. Kids have been given medicines. Kids have been given operations. People have got money. He has probably given away more money than 20%. I don't know this, but I'm going with it. He has probably given away large portions of his salary and got sponsorship and used his status as a footballer to gain more for those people than ever him taking a 20% cut of pay at Arsenal would do. And to be fair, if Arsenal said to him, you definitely won't have redundancies if you give us 20% back, he'd have probably given them the 20%. He even offered to pay for Gunnosaurus.
It was that. So I just wanted to Google this just to see where we were at. Inside Arsenal star Ozil's secret charity work, as he pays for 1,000 kids' operations and he has fed 100,000 homeless people. Mesut Ozil, one of the wealthiest footballers on the planet, but also probably amongst the most generous. Ozil came under fire after rejecting a 12.5% pay cut during coronavirus, but has done so much more with his money that so many don't understand. So that's the first thing you read when you go on to that. Mesut Ozil in May the 3rd. Mesut Ozil donates another £81,300 to a charity this month to fund supplies to help various people through Ramadan who can't feed. There's buckets of stuff about him just giving like chunks of money. 80 grand is 20% of his weekly wage if you believe what he's on.
That's exactly my point, James. That's exactly it. You add all that stuff about his political actions. Then you add the stuff he's being left out. So footballing reasons. Mesut Ozil cannot play for Arsenal Football Club for footballing reasons, yet Mustafi can. Yet El Neni can get in the squad. These players are inferior and are not good enough for Arsenal Football Club. You can have whatever view you want about how Mesut Ozil plays, whatever view. He's lazy. He doesn't show up for big games. You can have them views. But I tell you what, he shows up for games. And when he does, Ludogorets, when he scored that wonder goal, got us through that Champions League match or Europa League match then, but by sheer brilliance. He has stood up for Arsenal and with sheer brilliance, 13-14, we won the FA Cup. He's never lost an FA Cup game. There you go.
Yeah. It's a really difficult one, that. I can only really see goodness in Mesut Ozil, and my real issue around the Mesut Ozil saga is that the club have completely turned the fan base on them. I was talking to a friend earlier who I hold in such high regard, and he was like, no, I have it on good authority. He refused to train properly. He was causing fights at the club. I can't remember what else he was telling me, the whole thing around the wages piece. But when you go through stuff like this and you look at how much of his actual income he donates, it's like, well, hang on a second. He's doing all the right things with his money. He thinks that if he takes his full salary, like you said, it's the fat cat's getting fatter. And the end of the day, Ozil is the one person in this whole situation who is getting lambasted for having the contract that he's got. But that contract was offered to him. Arsenal Football Club could have allowed Ozil to have been another one of these players who they could not negotiate good terms with. He ran out his contract and he went and played premium football in another country. But they didn't. They were prepared to offer him a contract, and they offered him the contract that he wanted to keep him in the football club because they'd already lost Sanchez, they'd already lost Van Persie and Fabregas, Adebayor, Nasri, and all those players before that. So why is it Ozil's fault that his employers are prepared to give him a huge promotion? I described it to you earlier. You don't get pre-promoted in your football club for what we think you might do in the future. It was because at that point in time, he had all of those stats under his belt that you mentioned earlier. 14 assists, 7 goals, 9 assists, 5 goals, 20 assists, 8 goals, 14 assists, 12 goals, 14 assists, 5 goals. All of those stats he had under his, I can sit here and turn around and actively tell you that the stats tell you that I'm worth the money. I'm worth the promotion.
He was one of the players that were integral to ending a 10-year trophy drought for Arsenal Football Club. A 10-year trophy drought. We've gone on to win the FA Cup in that time four times since.
And we've let Sanchez go, and now we can't do anything with Ramsey. So now you're going to lose one of the integral players around you, and you've lost Sanchez, and we can't keep Cazorla fit, and we can't keep Wilshere fit. We've got Xhaka in the side now, and now you've got to play with players like Perez and Joel Campbell, Giroud, Welbeck, and see if you can carry on and see if you can find those 14, 15, 16 numbers for us again.
Mate, if you go back to the day he signed this new contract, I think it was deadline day. We'd done the deal for Aubameyang the same day, and it was treated on Sky Sports News and by Arsenal fans that day almost as if we'd re-signed a player. We were singing. It was the Everton game, the following game after, when there we were singing, "We've got Ozil." We were singing his name loud and proud because we'd re-signed him. We've got Aubameyang. We went out and thumped Everton. I think Aaron Ramsey got a hat-trick that game. We beat them 5-1. But we went out there and we played some brilliant football. And Ozil was a part of that. When we beat Leicester under Emery, Ozil was a part of that.
And let me just tell you this, Bob. Since Arsenal signed Aubameyang has now played 102 league games for Arsenal. Since Aubameyang's played for Arsenal, so they finally signed a world-class striker. Ozil has played 42 league games of the 102 that Aubameyang's played in. So they're not even allowed. They've seconded him so badly. Every time they've had good players or whatever, they've not let him fucking play. He's not had a run of games servicing a proper elite number 9, and he hasn't had a run of games with a proper elite number 4 behind him.
You're absolutely right.
42 of the 102 games. I just looked at that because you mentioned the Aubameyang point. That's madness to only allow Ozil to play in 40%. I mean, it's actually quite mental that Aubameyang scored the goals he has done with Ozil only 40% of them. It's just Arsenal have mistreated this player, and Kroenkes are just fucking hiding in the wings again. It's like fucking Hancock this week. He is proper under the gun. All of the fucking hospitals are completely overrun. The intensive care units are in dire straits, and all of a sudden Hancock gets my phone's pinged. I've got a 10-dayer. I'll catch up with you in 10 days. I'm taking a sabbatical because shit's hitting the fan here. And it's like these Kroenkes do not have to, they can hide away in America. These guys can hide away in America and not be responsible for the demise of this football club over the last decade and a half. And the poor running of the football club under Gazidis and now under Venkateshian have meant that we've got another premium top-shelf footballer who is leaving the club in such a scarred way for nothing. And he is the person who's getting all of the heat for it. I just want to say one thing where I finalise my point. Mesut Ozil is not even getting a backdoor at the moment because the club haven't even had the respect to make an announcement since so much media has gone out from publicists, journos and Ozil himself. But fucking Petr Cech got a standing ovation in the Emirates.
Mate, I cannot agree with you more, and you actually stole the point from my mouth. I was going to say that exact same thing. We will give more of a send-off to that fuck Mustafi than we will give. We've given Kalanasic more of a send-off for his loan move than we've ever got anywhere near what we're doing for Ozil. I think, in all fairness, look, you can like Ozil, you can hate Ozil, you can say he was brilliant, you can say he was bad. I think everyone is entitled to that opinion. I'll tell you the one thing, though. If anyone says that it's footballing reasons only why he's not played, you're wrong. Sorry, title to your opinion. I don't think it's factually correct, though.
It just can't be, because they have called footballing reasons around one of the worst Arsenal squads of my lifetime. And it's not...
Indeed, James, they had the worst start ever since like the mid-70s.
Yeah, so
let's just say the facts are there for that one, Albin. But the problem is that you're right. I personally think that whatever views you have on Mesut Ozil, I think we can all agree that he is being mistreated by Arsenal Football Club in the way that they are not. I know there's no fans and there's no fanfare and things like that because obviously of COVID, and that's fine. They can't be aggrieved for that. But are you telling me Arsenal, with their social media presence, the way they manipulate and do social medias, you know, I don't want to say it, but I think we were among the first people that did the whole announce this, announce that, welcome this, welcome that with the new signings. You know, we've always been quite good with our social media and things like that. The fact there is not one iota of acknowledgement, you know, you're letting your highest paid footballer walk out the door for free, and it's not even thanks for the memories, pal. It's not even sorry, fans, for letting this happen to you. It's not even thank you. It's not even sorry. It's not even what's gone on. They're almost pretending. There's almost like Donald Trump's taken over our social media. He's blind to the world out there. I think it's an absolute trap. You know, don't get me wrong. We're recording this now, Tuesday evening?
Yeah.
You know, this will go out probably Thursday. And in the middle time, tomorrow, there'll be a full-on documentary released by Arsenal on our Arsenal TV player.
But I don't know. Obviously, if you look at when he's travelled and things like that, it doesn't look like he's done any kind of exit interview or anything that he can sort of do with a send-off with Arsenal. I think he's going to probably publicise his own one. He's definitely going to want to say something because he is someone who likes to have freedom of speech. So, look, you know, I just, from my opinion, he'd be remembered as an Emirates great. He's not the greatest, but he was one of the greatest players of the Emirates era. I have so many fond memories of him. I was very lucky to meet him at an Arsenal game. I generally wish Mesut Ozil, a player of that ability who is still of an age where they can contribute to professional football, you know, albeit it be for a team now that has no personal effect on me. I hope to see one last, hashtag Mesut memory for Fenerbahce. I think we have a very big at Jim Bobcast. Good luck. And for Arsenal, I think in these circumstances, you really need to pull your socks up. Your contract negotiations, your retention of top players, and your actual acquisition of top players has been completely depleted now for over a decade. And if you want to get back to Champions League football and actually winning major honours, that is part of Arsenal Football Club that is way under the standard.
Who would you like to see replace Mesut Ozil, James?
Jack Grealish.
Jack Grealish. I've seen on Twitter this evening there's been some big movements with the boy Odegaard at Madrid wanting to leave on loan. I for one think if we could get a loan deal for him, that could be very good.
I don't know anything about him. Never seen him play.
He's a good attacking midfielder. I think he would add something. I think he'd complement Smith Rowe nicely.
I'm so bored of talking about signing players on loan. I feel like I'm a League Two club. You know, it's so underwhelming about having to talk about loan deals and things like that. Arsenal just taken £100 million loan, only one of 3 clubs to do it. You know, I just don't understand where all of the cash at Arsenal goes. I just do not get it. It just further absolutely decorates the fact that our self-sufficient way of trying to run our business just has us so hampered in professional football. You just are a middle-of-the-road club. We're a middle-of-the-road Premier League club under this model. You know, we just can't be anything bigger than that.
Yeah, it's distressing that we are now the 19th of January and we've not been linked with anyone other than a small tweeting of Julian Brandt. That quickly went away. And then it was a linking to Buendia, which now that's a £40 million player.
40 to 50 million, and Norwich are on a path to come back to the league, and the players focused. Ornstein shut that one down. The standard kind of Draxler is the new kind of Higuain, Benzema. That gets a little snippet, but Draxler will see his contract out. See, exactly the same situation. Ozil's an employee on a good wage, absolutely within his right to see his contract out. Footballers have short careers. People say he's on loads of money. His career's over in 3 years. He's got to live for another 45 years. So, someone's got to pay him. Draxler will do exactly the same thing at PSG. He'll be on 150 grand a week or something. They're euros. He will see his contract out and then he'll go somewhere. This is what happens in American sports, Yeah, they get massive signing on fees and then they go on to 3-4 year contracts because they haven't got to pay transfer fees to retrospective holding clubs anymore. You will not see Draxler move in this window. He will absolutely decline everything unless PSG give him a severance package, because he knows that in 6 months' time, he is still a very, very valuable asset and at a young enough age that he can get the wages he wants. Plus, someone will say, well, I'm happy to pay him £7.5 million as a joining fee because I haven't got to pay a transfer fee.
Yeah, that's exactly it. There's more. It's worth more to him.
Yeah, that's why Ramsey went to Juventus in the end, because I think they paid him like €15 million plus the wages that he wanted.
Yeah, it's made his family for life, that, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. His wife's a humble baker from some small town in Wales. Like, oh, love, I've got €15 million. Fucking hell, I can buy loads of flour with that. So
there she is making pastry after croissant.
Yeah, exactly. A few pan au chocolats, and she's just got a fucking basement of pastry in her Italian villa.
Returns home. What have we done today, darling? I've knocked up a Victoria sponge. So I have, darling.
Yeah.
Would you like some? It's absolutely lush.
Why haven't you made it a panettone? We're here in fucking Turin now, or whatever. But yeah, exactly. But good luck to them all. But look, Bob, you got any lasting anecdotes on Mesut Ozil?
I'm sad, but I'm one of these people that everything has its duration in life. And because the club had set their stall out, and it's the club's fault why they're not playing him, I believe him. That's my opinion. They've set their stall out. He wasn't going to play for Arsenal again, so I'd much rather him not be at Arsenal.
Yeah, I agree.
Because it affects the players on the pitch as much as it'll affect anybody else. Knowing that he's there, knowing that fans, knowing that media will say, well, Mesut Ozil's not playing and Arsenal aren't creating chances. He's not at the club anymore, so he cannot play. He's gone. Allow Smith Rowe to develop. By all means, get players to come in, sign a Grealish, an Odegaard, a Buendia, a Draxler. By all means, bring these players. A Wilfred Zaha.
Awar.
By the way, sign these players, bring them in. Let's move forward. Every player leaves the club. Tony Adams left the club. Vieira left the club. Henry left the club. Ted Drake left the club, went and got to manage Chelsea to a league title. Arsenal greats go and leave the club, and they will always continue to do that. And Arsenal keeps on going. As people have said before, it's you play for the name on the front of the shirt, not the name on the back. And that's something that I want Arsenal to do well. I'm an Arsenal fan first and foremost. I enjoy the players that play for Arsenal. If Mustafi left tomorrow, I would celebrate. If he goes and plays against Southampton at the weekend and scores the winning goal, I will also celebrate. So that's exactly a thing, I just want Arsenal to get better. I enjoyed Arsenal in 1998. I enjoyed Arsenal in the early 2000s, and I loved them in 2004. 2006 Champions League final, and I loved them in the FA Cup final this year. I love that.
And you'll love them until you have your grandchildren on your knee. Werther's originally them. So you're absolutely right. The club outlive every single player, member of staff, X, Y, and Z, because the club is the one thing in time that doesn't die, and that's what we support. So we have to move beyond Mesut. It's just a slightly sad set of situations as to I just don't feel like you see this happen at any other club. it just doesn't. I feel like every other football club just has a bit more class than we do, and that bugs me because I hold someone like Arsene Wenger in such high regard as a classy individual. So something's just not right there. But
I think that's a good point, James. That's a very good point. It's the class about it. Other clubs have moved on players that are much more divisive and sour in their dressing rooms, and they've got more of a send off than what Mesut Ozil's getting.
Yeah. All right, old boy. That's all from me. Is that all from you?
I'm done, if you will.
Okay. Well, thank you again this week to our sponsor, manscaped.com. Make sure that you use Jim Bob 20. Go check it out. Bob, you have had the full trimming service, and Nicola has assisted you with it. And
it's been beautiful. Yeah. Yes, that's right. So we'll finish off by saying this week's episode of @JimBobCast has been brought to you by Manscaped, the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Remember to use the JimBob20 discount code at manscaped.com. That will get you free shipping as well as your 20% off. We promise you, both myself, James, and my wife, Nicola, that your balls will thank you.
Well, that is, and you can look, we'll post it up on the Twitter page. So get on that @JimBobcast, and everything will be there for you. But as always, it's been a bloody good chat with you, old bean. I have been Jim.
And I have been Bob.
See you all soon.
Bye-bye.